Happy Thanksgiving! I cannot believe it is already that time of year, but it is one of my favorite times when family comes together, when you're setting the table in extra special ways, pulling out your favorite dishes, and the house smells amazing. I cannot wait to bring you a perfect Thanksgiving turkey, and it's part of a larger playlist along with some other great YouTube channels that I think you need to check out after you watch this. They're all part of the Ultimate Thanksgiving Guide, your go-to guide for everything you need to know for your perfect Thanksgiving meal. Your family will be amazed at what you'll be able to cook up after watching all of these great videos. There are so many different ways to have a turkey, and a lot of people think you just go to the store, buy one, pop it in the oven, and don't worry about it. But as you probably know, that can create a dry turkey and one that really isn't that great. If you really want to wow your family, friends, or guests, it is essential to brine your turkey, and to do that you need to make sure to start 24 hours or at least 8 hours before you want to put it in the oven. And as soon as you're brining it, you have to make sure that's already thawed. So this could cause you to make sure to plan at least 3 to 4 days ahead of time depending how big of turkey you're doing. Today I'm talking about a turkey that's around 12 to 14 pounds. So you may need to adjust the recipe slightly to fit your turkey, but this is the go-to recipe to make sure you have a moist and beautiful turkey. The brine is fairly simple, and really what a brine does is actually change the molecular structure of the meat itself. There's a lot of salt in a brine, and you may think, I don't want to eat all that salt, but don't worry, you really aren't. It doesn't get absorbed into the bird as much as soften the bird's tendons and really allow its own natural juices to become a lot more flavorful inside of the bird itself. So a night before you roast your bird, or up to 24 hours before you want to put it in the oven, you want to put this brine together. I like to use a brand new bucket that I have just for brining. I call it my brining bucket. Yes, I'm that odd, but you don't want any other contaminants or a bucket you might use for other items. If you don't have something clean enough, you can buy large brining bags made just for this. In a saucepan, combine some of your water, some salt, a little bit of coriander seed, a few mustard seeds, a few peppercorns, and a little bit of fennel seed, and some bay leaves. Oh, I love bay leaves, and I have some fresh ones I'm throwing in, but if you only have dried, don't worry, that's perfectly fine. Put this on the stove and let it come to a boil and then simmer for a little while. You want to make sure all the salt is fully dissolved before you move on. Set it off the heat once it's dissolved and let it cool down as you prepare the rest of your brine. In your large bucket or bag, combine the rest of the water, a bottle of dry white wine. I'm using a Chardonnay, but any dry white wine that you like to drink will work well here. Also, a few crushed garlic cloves, and then some fresh herbs. I like to use thyme and sage and a little bit of rosemary. And some sliced onion. You don't need to worry about how clean the onion really is because this is just for the brine and will be completely rinsed off and taken away later on. Add your warm brine mixture to it. You want to make sure it cools down a little bit because you don't really want to add a hot brine to your turkey, as that can't be a good mixture for bacteria. Before you place the turkey in the brine, it is really important that you rinse it with cool running water in your sink. I know it sounds odd, but you know, turkeys come from processing plants sometimes. If you can, find an all-natural or organic turkey. Those are just a little bit more safe to use, but if not, just either way, rinse it off really well inside and out. And if yours comes with one of those pop-up timers, you want to make sure to remove those. Those are not really trustworthy to use, and any of the giblets that are inside of the bird. Sometimes they're in the front of the neck and sometimes they're on the inside of the cavity, so just check both places and make sure to take them out. Place your turkey in the brine. Make sure it's combined well. Sometimes I like to add some of the sliced onion first and then the bird and the rest of the sliced onion to make sure they kind of get all around it, but if you have a big enough bucket, you don't really have to worry about that. And then set the whole thing in the fridge to chill. You cannot leave your turkey out overnight in the brine. That would not be good at all. If you don't have fridge space, you can place it in a cooler and pack it with ice as long as it stays at least 40 degrees the whole time. Make room in your fridge, it's a lot easier. The next day, once you're ready to roast your turkey, you want to take the brine turkey out about an hour or 2 hours before you're going to roast it. It's best to let a turkey come down to room temperature before you pop it in the oven, just to take some of that initial chill off. Take your turkey out of the brine, place it in your sink, and rinse it off really well. This will just rinse off any of those peppercorns or any of the other herbs that have stuck to the turkey, and rinse off any of that extra salt water that may be on it. So rinse out the inside of the cavity and the outside of the bird, and then let it drip dry, and then completely pat it dry with paper towels. Once you've dried your bird, you can start getting the turkey ready to go into the oven. Make sure to season the inside of the cavity with salt and pepper, and then start placing in all your aromatics that are really going to season the bird as you're doing this. I like to place in some sliced onion, some fresh parsley, thyme, sage, and rosemary. You don't have to worry how fine you're chopping them because they're just going in to flavor the turkey and you won't be using them later on. But they'll also create some really flavorful pan drippings that you can use for the gravy. Stuff it really tightly inside the cavity because this is really going to help flavor the bird. Tie the two legs together with some good baker's twine. You do not want to use a unnatural or synthetic twine because that will melt in the oven. Make sure you use an all cotton baker's or butcher's twine when you're doing this for the oven. Make sure to salt and pepper the bottom of the bird really well before placing it in the roasting pan, and then place it right into your roasting pan, and make sure you're using a V-rack that will lift it up the bottom of the pan. This helps the juices to drip off of it evenly, and when you're basting the bird, it helps them to coat it more evenly. Tuck the wings that are in front of the bird down underneath the front, and then salt and pepper the whole bird really well. This helps flavor it extremely well. Place the bird in a moderately low oven and start the roasting process. Look at the charts and make sure you know approximately how long it could take your bird to bake. Each one can take differently, and so this way you'll know when to start taking the temperature. In a separate kettle, you want to get ready your basting liquid. This is what I love about this recipe. This really flavors the bird and creates such beautiful drippings. Place some butter and some white wine, again a good dry white wine, into the kettle, and then just a few fresh herbs. I'm using the classics again that I've been using for my whole meal of thyme, rosemary, and sage. These really help flavor the butter and the bird. Let this all melt on the stove and then keep it at an extremely low temperature just so it stays melted. About every 30 to 45 minutes while your bird is roasting, just take a good baster and drip this over the whole bird. As it's baking, this is going to season it and crispen the skin and really flavor the bird. You are going to love this recipe. Once the internal temperature, which you want to take at the thickest part of the thigh bone, in between the thigh and the bird itself, registers 165 degrees, you can take your bird out of the oven. You want to plan for your bird to be taken out of the oven about a half hour to an hour before you want your meal to happen, because it's best to let the bird then rest for at least 30 minutes before any carving could happen. If you do it too early, a lot of your juices will just flow out of the bird, and that would be no good at all. Let your bird rest on a separate counter, and then you can make your gravy. As you can see, a turkey sounds like a lot of work, but with the proper care and a little bit of extra time spent in brining, you will have the most moist and beautiful bird for all your guests. You cannot go wrong with this perfect Thanksgiving turkey. For the perfect meal, check out all these other videos on the Ultimate Thanksgiving Guide. You will have great ideas of what to make for your Thanksgiving this year. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving.